Okay, so first of all, the prize draw. For everybody who attends this specific webinar, there's a chance to win. Sorry, could you just do the next one? Sorry. There's a chance to win a Meraki MV2 camera. That is required if you like what you see in this demo. Get in contact with myself or Darren if you prefer, and we can set up a demo for you. First come, first served for that camera. And as an overall prize for the webinar series itself, everyone who attends any of our webinars will get entered into a draw at the end of them. And we will be raffling out 5 sets of Meraki MT sensors. So these are the indoor air quality sensors and the open closed door sensors that you can see on the screen at the moment. With that, that's about it. I know Dan's got a lot to get through, so hand over.
Cheers, Phil. Morning, everyone. So, yes, as some of you I know have been on a number of these webinars, some are new to this. But this one is a reasonably technical webinar. The reason being is SASE. It's the next generation, if you like, of network securities. Some people think it's a bit of a buzzword, but it is the way the industry is going. It is technical by its very nature. I know network engineers, speak to network engineers who don't quite understand what it is. So there's a lot of building on different technologies today that I've got to get through. So there's a lot of slides, there's a demo at the end, but hopefully it will all make sense. When I've given this presentation before, seems to have gone down well, that at the end it all makes sense and what it is, what it's for. Again, any questions, just throw them to Phil. Phil will shout them out if they're relevant as we go through. So the agenda today, what I'm going to cover is we're going to look at the trends and challenges and why we're having this conversation, why organisations are moving to this type of infrastructure. We're going to go over at a high level what SASE is, and even more confusing, SSE now, as a lot of vendors are pushing out there. It's very simple actually what it is, but we'll just go over that briefly. Then we'll look at software-defined WAN, because that is a technology stack that we've been delivering now for years. It's well in, we deployed it for schools, businesses, public sector, police forces, you name it. That's what we do day in, day out. And then we'll look at securing internet access, because now we're putting our WAN links over the internet. So we just want to make sure that we're securing that. And then the SD-WAN and securing internet access have come together into unified SASE products. So from a Cisco perspective today, we're going to be looking at Meraki, Cisco Meraki, because it's a Cisco Meraki series, but also Cisco Umbrella for any of you who know that. But if you don't, I will go over that. And then we're unifying that into something called Cisco Secure Connect. I've got a little demo at the end, but again, it's a wide and deep subject, this. So if you do want a deeper demo, let us know. You might want a camera. Then we'll have a bit of a Q&A at the end. So one slide quickly about Protos then, for those of you who are new to the webinar. Who are we? So we are an enterprise networks and cybersecurity specialist based in Chester. We don't do end user IT. We do very niche things around the IT and information security arena. So things like network security, you're gonna see today, network access, wireless, firewalls, things like that. But then we also do cybersecurity defense, so 24/7 monitoring of your networks, security testing, penetration testing, cyber essential certifications, ISO 27001. We are multi-skilled across that. I've got a whole team of skilled network security engineers, security analysts and security testers. We have over 1,000 clients across the UK and overseas. So a little bit about who Protos are then, but I have really got to move on today. So why are we having this discussion then about SASE and about these models? So if any of you have been in the IT or the telecoms or the network industry as long as I have, nearly 20 years now, you would have seen MPLS maybe in one of your previous organizations, because in the old world, if you like, a lot of our applications and things like that were on premises. They were on servers on premises. So that could have been file shares, SharePoint, your email servers, web servers, databases, things like that. They were just on your network. So we didn't really need that much internet traffic. So what we used to do is we used to go to a big provider, BT, any of them, and say, I'd like a WAN network, and they put in an MPLS network, which would connect all your sites securely, and then you'd probably have a centralized internet breakout from their data center or maybe one of your sites, and you might get like 50 meg. I'm amazing to think years ago, we supported sites of 600 users and we only had a 50 meg internet line. That was fine at the time, but then the world started changing and we started to have problems, as the world started changing. So years ago now, Microsoft Office 365 was the big burst really when we started moving our emails, our SharePoint, all of that stuff up to the cloud. But then there was other stuff, WebEx that we're on now, Teams, Salesforce, I don't know, you name it. You can probably name a dozen cloud applications that your organization probably used. And what that meant is that 80-20 rule, where 80% of our traffic was internal, 20 was internet, it completely flipped on its head. 80% of our traffic now is internet traffic. It's going to the cloud app, going to our cloud apps. 20% is internal. And where we had a firewall at the network edge, they start to creak at the seams now because we're putting more and more traffic through these. And that firewall isn't just doing the boundary between the internet and your networks and your users. It's also got to do things like look for malware, look for intrusions, whatever else we make the firewall do, data leakage inspection, all of that stuff. So that's where we were getting bottlenecks in our networks, if you like. And the world changed even more. And we all know the global pandemic that we all went through a few years ago. That pushed this and pushed organizations' digital journey to where we have a pretty much fully hybrid workforce now in most organizations. So our users work from home. So if I just, take you back to the last slide, where were home workers in that? We'd VPN into the network and that's how we'd get in. But now users are at home and they want to access their app, so they don't need to be on a VPN, for example. We've got bring your own devices. So, laptops, phones, things like that people want to bring in or they want to access their emails from. We've got IoT, Internet of Things, printers, smartwatches, wearables, all of that stuff. And then, we've got cloud apps that don't sit on our infrastructure, but then we might have a hybrid infrastructure. We might have some stuff on site, might have some stuff in Amazon, in Google, in Microsoft Azure, whatever it is. So the whole way our networks works have completely changed. So the industry needed a new way of approaching network security. And the buzzword or the approach that the industry seems to be settling on now is SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, is what it means. Now, this was a term coined by Gartner. For those of you who don't know who Gartner is, they're a research development firm, quite big in IT. All of the vendors, Cisco, CrowdStrike, Microsoft, all that, they like to be in the Gartner Magic Quadrant in whatever area of IT they're in, so email security, all of that stuff. So very well respected, and I'll keep referring to them throughout this because it's easier to. There are a lot of research organisations, but I'll keep referring to Gartner because they coin the term SASE. And what it is, it's a convergence of network models, like WAN and things like that, VPNs, all of that good stuff, alongside security stuff, which I'll cover shortly. So, things like web security, decryption of our traffic, all of that good stuff. And what it's aiming to do is bring these things together because users expect the same quality of experience, whether they're going to a database or whether they're going to an internal web app or whether they're going to a cloud or whether they're going to Microsoft 365 or whatever it is. However, admins and particularly also security teams, we do the security for a lot of our clients. We need to make sure that wherever they're accessing our data from or our applications, they are secure and the right policy is assigned to them. And we can make sure their device is secure, their location secure, all of that good stuff. And Gartner estimate that, I think this was done last year, this research, 32% of CIOs that they've spoken to are looking to start implementing SASE in the next 12 months. So I was doing these webinars 6 years ago now on SD-WAN, and we were just talking about it at the time, and then it went crazy, and we're still, the guys out there are still deploying big SD-WAN projects to this day. So this is going to be the next thing, it is coming around quick, on putting this kind of infrastructure in. So that's why today I'm going to layer on top of things. So it is quite slide heavy. I'm going to try and get through it as quick as I can and then have a demo, but ask any questions, as we go. So I'm going to build on top of it with different elements of a SASE model. So what is SASE then? So we have on-site users in the office. We have roaming and hybrid workers who are working from home, or they could be in Starbucks or wherever they are. We have third-party contractors. We have BYOD devices, personal mobiles, and they all want to access our systems. And that could be a cloud system like Microsoft 365. They want to access the internet. They want to come into our data centers or our branches, because we might still have servers on site. We might have our own data centers. So that's what they want to do. And so we need to make sure that experience, if you like, is seamless, but it's secure. So the move to a SASE architecture is a journey. Sounds a bit cheesy, but it is. And I've got a slide shortly that'll go into that a little bit more. Different vendors have a different view of what constitutes a SASE solution. So Gartner coined these terms, and then the whole world, and all the vendors, Cisco, Fortinet, you name it, Palo Alto, they all go and come up with their different things. And what we're talking about today is Cisco's interpretation of it and where Cisco are going with that, because we're a Cisco premier partner, premier provider. They're a core. Their Cisco technology is core to who Protos are, and Protos and Cisco are uniquely based to help you in this scenario, because we were set up as a network and security business. So if you go back to the last slide with the circles, networks and security, it's what we do. This is in our DNA as an organization. Cisco is the #1 SD-WAN market share. We know that, hundreds, if not thousands, of SD-WAN devices that are under our support now, and has been recognized as a visionary by Gartner. Now with Cisco, like with Microsoft and all of these big clients, it takes them time because they're big ships to turn. But when they do turn, their ability to execute this is enormous. And because we specialize in cybersecurity and networks, that's where we help you. So the two elements of SASE then, networks as a service. So this is your software-defined WAN that we're going to look at today. But we're also looking at things like VPNs, policy-based routing, optimizing your WAN for voice and all that. All that really does fall within SD-WAN, and I'll cover that shortly. And then we have security as a service. So this is things such as DNS security. Those of you who know Cisco Umbrella. If you don't, I'll go over that. Zero trust. I'll touch on it slightly, but our next webinar is going to be on zero trust. Secure web gateways. So what used to be our web security appliances, our proxies and things like that, are all going off into the cloud. So that's the sort of stuff. So on that journey through the fabric, so I'll start bringing that terminology in. This is what our users are going to experience, so the network and the security. Quick slide then. You may see some vendors going on about SSE, Security Services Edge. And most of the providers going on about this can't do SD-WAN, that's why they're going on about it. So essentially what it is it's the SASE, but without the SD-WAN elements. But this is ideal for fully remote workforces, or if you don't want to put in an SD-WAN solution, you can just do this. And it includes all the security aspects of SASE. So I'm going over today the Meraki element, which is SASE, because Meraki is access, SD-WAN, but Cisco do have a solution just for this as well, which is Cisco Secure Access. Not really part of today, but if that's where your organization is going, you can come and speak to us. We know how to do that as well. So SASE is, it starts with security, but it includes more. As we've already said, it includes connectivity, SD-WAN, VPN, remote access, and we'll cover that shortly. But a key part to SASE is identity. So I assume many of you on this call will probably use Microsoft 365. Your identity provider, you might have Active Directory, or a lot of organizations now are moving to Azure or Entra. Or you could use something like Okta or Duo single sign-on or something like that. So having that identity in place is going to be key to your overall SASE strategy. Where does this start to come together? Well, it's here on your roadmap. So this is what a typical SASE roadmap looks like. And our customers are on varying elements of this SASE roadmap. We ourselves are on this roadmap, and I'll talk a bit more about that shortly. So, as I just mentioned, I brought identity into the discussion there. So, obviously, SASE and all this stuff is a very cloud-first approach. So, if your organization is adopting the cloud, and going down this route, you will probably be adopting a cloud-based identity and access management service, such as Microsoft Entra or Azure AD, as it used to be called, or Duo Single Sign-On, or something like that. So most organizations have already got this in place. Then this is quite normal. They might put an SD-WAN in. So they might, let's say your organization has 5 sites. You might have had a mixture of different firewalls previously. You want to connect them all, and you want to connect them to Azure as well. You put some servers in Azure. You look at Meraki, you put Meraki SD-WAN in, you connect all of your sites up, and you go from there. Then we don't usually sell an SD-WAN solution without putting a secure web gateway or DNS security on the top. Why? Because SD-WAN allows your sites and users to break out to the internet from their local location, from the office location, wherever that is. So we need to secure that and make sure as they're going to the internet, they're secure. Then, this is where we're at now. So we've had our licenses for our SASE solution for a while. My network team have been very busy on a big project. So we're doing it this week. We're switching over, but we've had to move over policies and all that. It's quite a big change for us. We've still got customers to support and all that. So that's why we are on this roadmap. But we've jumped ahead and already done the zero trust stuff. So if you go back to the identity, you then integrate that into your SASE. So anyone who wants to get into your SASE fabric needs to come through your identity provider. So that could be, through Microsoft or whatever it is. So I'm throwing terms in here aware, and I'm going quite fast, like fabric and all that. Hopefully this will start to unravel and it'll start to make sense as I go forward. So, move on then. The first element of this is building a network architecture with SD-WAN. So software-defined WAN. Essentially what we're doing these days, and what Gartner recognise, is that instead of buying private WAN circuits from the big providers like Daisy and BT and Verizon, who I used to work for, and all these people, organizations can now buy different types of links. So it might be a broadband line for a small site. It might be a fiber lease line. You might put Starlink. You might put a 5G link. It's up to you. You can put whatever links you're in there. And then the SD-WAN is overlaid on top of it. It has to do multiple path selection. So let's say we have a lease line, which is a gigabit lease line, and that's doing all of our data. We trust that. That's our best line. We might have a broadband failover, for example, but one day our lease line is having issues. An SD-WAN solution should be able to detect that and send your data out over the backup line. Should have a simple configuration and management interface. Meraki is exactly that. So for those of you who've been on the other webinars, and you'll see it in the demo shortly, that is exactly what Meraki is. And it should support other VPNs, which we do, firewalls, secure web gateways, all the stuff I'm going to move on to. So secure SD-WAN from Meraki then, as we've just mentioned, any location, so your branches, if you've got co-location sites, if you've got AWS clouds, Azure clouds, whatever it is, or your hybrid workers, that's what we need to access our systems. Then we look at any transport, so this is lease lines, fiber to the cabinet, 5G, Starlink, we're seeing more and more with our customers, especially in rural areas now as well. And then on top of that, we're layering our SD-WAN fabric on top of that. So, that's putting secure tunnels over everything, building the WAN on top of it, and then we can optimize our traffic. So, for example, we can say, let's prioritize Teams or WebEx traffic because that's very critical, latency and things like that. We can get analytics from this. We can start to apply security controls on top of this. And this supports any deployment. So you might have 40 sites and they're all sites and you've got a big data center. So we just put physical Merakis in. You might have 6 sites and then some servers in Azure. We put a virtual Meraki up in Azure. So depending on what your architecture looks like, we can deploy an SD-WAN solution for you. So what this looks like from an architectural perspective then is you get the internet in, however you want to do that, speak to us about that. We don't do internet, but we've got many partners who do. And then we overlay. So with a Meraki SD-WAN, we can overlay in a number of ways. So as I mentioned, if we go from the top there and go clockwise around, if you've got a Google Cloud platform, Microsoft Azure, AWS, we can deploy a virtual appliance in there, and we've got some ourselves up in AWS. It's how we operate. For your remote workers who, you know, we did a big project during COVID. They have critical, they're telephone answering organisation. So we deployed teleworker, small SD-WAN appliances to people's homes because it was so critical we could see and secure and monitor their traffic even in homes. Then your small branches, you might have a small device, big devices at your HQ. And then we might need our remote workers to get into the SD-WAN fabric. And traditionally they'd VPN in using Cisco, used to be AnyConnect, Cisco Secure Client as it's known now. This is where we're going to slightly change things up in a bit when I talk about SASE. So that's SD-WAN. The thing with this now is that from all of these locations, so from the user's laptop, from the teleworker appliance, from the branch, internet access is going to break out locally, or it could break out from a centralized location, and you could say, actually, I want Teams traffic to just go out for this location. So we can get very clever on what internet traffic breaks out. But where it does break out, because we haven't got one point of egress now, we need to be secure in that, and that's where Cisco Umbrella and then the SASE thing comes into its own. So what we need to do is secure internet access. And we've done this, we do this traditionally with a tool called Cisco Umbrella. I think a few of you on this call will use that. So I'll go over quickly what that is. Cisco Umbrella is a cloud-delivered security solution, and it can do a whole heap of things. It's awesome, it's an awesome product. And as we said, we very rarely put in an SD-WAN solution without Umbrella being overlaid on top of that. So as you can see, still keep mentioning that overlay. So its fundamental level, it'll do DNS security, and I'll cover that shortly. It'll do secure web gateway features, so blocking uploads to certain sites and all that. We can push your firewall rules to the cloud. We can control access to our 365 tenancy and monitor that. We can monitor for malware, all of this stuff, and we can just push it up off the cloud and get it off our on-premise servers and assign a consistent security policy across our organization. And the elements that fit into Umbrella then, you know, it's fundamental, you know, the entry-level licenses, if you like, is DNS security. So really simple to set up. You can protect the whole organization in minutes with this. You just point the DNS, the domain name server for your whole organization off to Umbrella. And what that does is everything uses DNS. Smartwatches use DNS. Coffee machines, laptops, printers, everything uses DNS. And it happens before the IP conversation, you know, in a network flow, if you like. And what happens there is when that DNS lookup happens, Umbrella will look at Cisco Telos, the world's largest non-governmental threat intelligence organization, and it'll say if that's internet bad guys, for example, it will block it because that's a known bad domain. Or it'll allow it. And you can block things like Snapchat if you want across the whole organization in seconds. So that's really good. You can go further. You can push your firewall off into Umbrella. You know, get more visibility and control into the applications that are being used, you know, on our network. And then you can go to what we call a secure web gateway. And this is where you could block uploads or downloads of exe files, for example. You could have granular app controls. So that might allow downloads from Dropbox, for example, but block uploads to do, you know, prevent data leaving our network. So what that means is DNS is good. It's a very good solution. You know, we've got a lot of customers on that. The full web traffic security is better. Obviously, having all of it is best. So that's what it is. I'm going to quickly just skim over these slides because I've put them in, but I am short on time. So I'm just quickly going to go over these. So we'll just go into DNS then. So this is the first layer of security. So how this works, as I've said, you can deploy Umbrella DNS security in a matter of minutes, pointing your DNS up there. We can push little, you know, the agent out to end user devices. And this will primarily block domains associated with malware, phishing, all of that stuff. Now, it will let most traffic out or block it because it will either know if it's safe. If it's google.com, it's safe. If it's internetbadguys.com, which is a test domain, it's bad, so it'll block it. Those domains it doesn't know about, it'll have a look, it'll proxy it, and then it'll go and have a look and say, actually, is this related to malware or phishing, and then potentially block it. The great thing about the DNS security is it adds security, but also it might make your internet faster. So it is a very fast DNS resolver. So that's very good. Then you go to the next level up, which is secure web gateway. So this can do things like scanning your internet traffic for malware. So essentially, we're tunneling all of our web traffic up via Umbrella, via Cisco, and out to the internet. We can do, so for example, we might want to only lock down access to our own Microsoft 365 tenancy. That's one use of it. As I said before, we might want to allow downloads from Dropbox, but not uploads, and we might want to see the full URL. So this is a lot more than what we get with the DNS. Now, you might not want to send your Microsoft 365 traffic to be decrypted and go up because it might impact the performance of it. So we can bypass that and send it around the cloud if we trust that traffic and things like that. So we can get a lot more clever. This is a bit more like your old web proxies for those of you like me who used to work on them or have been around long enough to know them. And then your on-premises. So your on-premise devices, how does this work? So essentially, we connect our Meraki SD-WAN and we connect it to Umbrella. So we're starting to integrate these. And this is where a lot of our customers are now on this SASE journey. So, you know, this is in the middle, I'd say, on that journey. And what this does, your SD-WAN sends all of its internet out of 2 geolocated data centers which are near you. So in our circumstance, it's London and Frankfurt. London, the primary, Frankfurt, the backup. And what this does is any traffic from our SD-WAN, wherever it's coming through, we will send it out via London's data centers. So it'll egress Cisco's data centers, if you like. So we've got one plane, if you like, where we're pushing our security policy out up in the cloud. So that's Meraki and Umbrella, and I'm aware I'm going through this very quick, but here's where hopefully it starts to make sense for you. So we're unifying both of these products now into a solution called Cisco Secure Connect. And what does that look like? It looks like this. So remember at the start we said network as a service, security as a service, the two key elements of SASE. These are converging and the market is pushing us this way into Cisco Secure Connect. So you get all of those amazing things that Meraki SD-WAN gives you. So that visibility into your voice traffic, prioritizing teams, whatever it is, policy-based routing, so you get that performance, but then you get all of the wonderful security features from Umbrella. So, you know, the firewall as a service, secure web gateway, all of that good stuff. So that's what we're starting to do, and that's what Cisco Secure Connect is. And this is the way that, you know, the world's going to go. I've heard on the grapevine that eventually Cisco Umbrella won't exist, and everything will be in one unified platform, and that's the way we're starting to go now. And then you just pick which licenses you want, and then you can traffic stuff wherever you want to go. So essentially what's happening now is for your on-premises and for your hybrid workforce, so you know our users working from home and things like that, wherever they go on their network journey, so whether they're going to a server that we own internally, or whether they're going to the internet, they are going to go through the fabric. So the SASE fabric that sits on top of this. And to build this out, Cisco have got data centers all over the world. And this is where I said earlier, Cisco, a big provider, it takes them a while to turn, but their ability, you know, 80% of the world's internet traffic goes through Cisco hardware. They're pretty much the company that build the internet. And because they've got so many data centers and such big infrastructure, they are very well placed to deliver this and give you excellent network performance. For example, I know they're building a new data center up in Manchester as well. So we're going to have 2 data centers alone in the UK to support this infrastructure going forward. So a lot of investment from here. So our on-premises, our managed endpoints, so you know our laptops and stuff that are managed by Intune and things like that, they will go through this fabric. But then if we want to allow unmanaged devices, so this could be a contractor or someone like that, we want to give access to an internal app, they can also go through the fabric, you know, to provide remote access. So it's quite a cool feature that I'll move on to shortly. So I'll go through each of these one at a time, then we'll jump into the demo. So let's take each scenario. So on premises then, SASE. So we've deployed our Cisco SD-WAN, we've bought our Secure Connect licenses, And we just essentially, like I showed you in a few slides ago, we connect that into the SASE fabric. So all of our network traffic, if it's internal and it's going up to Azure or whatever, it'll go through the SD-WAN and it'll go that way, and it'll all go through the SASE fabric. Our internet traffic from our sites, it will go through Secure Web Gateway, it'll go through our Cloud Access Security Broker, so you know it'll look, is this application allowed, are we allowed to upload to it, all this stuff. It'll go through all that inspection, you know, we'll look for intrusion, all of that good stuff whilst we're on site. So we're essentially, where we used to put our firewall rules on each site, we're now pushing all of our firewall and security policy up to the cloud, and it just goes through that fabric and up. Where we've got managed devices, so, you know, these are our laptops, and I'll keep picking Intune because it's a good way, it's a nice little model, and a lot of organizations are starting to manage their endpoints via Intune. So what you can do is, via Intune, we can push out the Cisco Secure Client. It used to be AnyConnect. And now, with the new way that SASE's going, instead of remoting into a VPN to get into our systems, that is always connected to Cisco's fabric, no matter where they are. So let's say our user, we send them on a business trip to Canada, for example, and they go to Vancouver. They will just automatically connect to the Cisco data center in Vancouver and be connected to the fabric. Now they can browse the internet, it's absolutely fine, but then they want to get to an internal database. The SASE fabric's built it, and it can. Because it's built it securely back into your network, and that's where we're going with SASE. And we can apply security policies for this. So, for example, if that's a finance user, they can get to their finance systems wherever they are in the world. But if they're in HR, they'll be blocked from getting the finance systems, for example. And then, obviously, as they go into the internet, so you know they're sat in the hotel browsing, we're still inspecting their web traffic if they're going to dodgy sites or doing anything dodgy or downloading malware or anything like that. And then we can tie all that back in, getting a bit beyond this webinar now, into the wider security architecture, you know, monitoring for threats, locking them down, things like that. We can integrate it, and I'll show you in a minute, with your endpoint detection and response, things like CrowdStrike. You know, we can go much further than that as part of the wider security architecture. This is the stuff I love doing. I love talking to our customers about. Then we have a third scenario. And what is the third scenario? So we might want to give a contractor, for example. So let's say we have a contractor who's got their own device and they're doing some work on our internal database or our internal web application or our finance portal. What we can do is integrate the SASE fabric with our zero trust and our identity. So let's say we use Microsoft 365, Azure Entra ID, whatever it's called this week. We integrate that with our SASE fabric. We create that contractor an account. They access it with their managed device, and we can do some, can't do everything, but we can inspect that device for certain things. Is the browser up to date? Are they in a trusted location? For example, do we only allow access from the UK? And then they can browse to a public URL. They authenticate through Azure AD, and then they get to our application internally. And this really helps organizations who've got contractors who just work on a couple of apps, for example. So these are the three main problems, if you like, that SASE is looking to resolve, you know, and it's getting, you know, essentially we won't use remote access VPNs anymore in the future. We'll just connect to a fabric wherever we are and go from there. So that is the end of the slides. Have you got any, before I go to the demo, have you got anything you want to say now? Do you want to, any questions?
Quick question for you, take one now.
Yeah.
Andrew's asked, he's got multiple sites, multiple firewalls,
Yeah.
different end dates for things.
Yeah.
Is SD-WAN something that has to be done all in one go, or can it be rolled out?
No. So when we do SD-WAN rollouts, this is and this comes a lot with school trust, believe it or not, because obviously they're all businesses that are doing acquisitions. So you might take on a new site. It's got a Fortinet firewall. It's managed by the provider. It's up next year. What we can do is start to deploy your Meraki sites now, if that's the way you want to go, and then look. So, you know, go to market. We help our customers with this. We go and get them the most cost-effective solutions we can, and then start building on top. But what you could do is, even if you've got an existing firewall or something in there, you can still deploy an SD-WAN appliance and speak to our Meraki account managers, we've seen it where Meraki have given discounts or given extra term on the license to cover that. So they might give you a 5 for 3, for example, to cover that 2 years, so you can start deploying Meraki now and then build on top of it. Alternately, you could put Umbrella in now and then start doing it backwards if you wanted to do it that way. Yeah.
Cool.
Right, I will jump into the demo. Hopefully it hasn't logged me out of everything. So this is the Meraki dashboard. So hopefully you've been on some of our webinars, you know what this is. I'm not going to go too deep into the Meraki dashboard here, but it's they're not calling it a dashboard. What are they calling it now, Phil? A platform, aren't they? Yeah. They're calling it a platform. So this is the new way that we're going, because it can do a lot of stuff. So if I just jump into a network here, so we have an organization with different networks and all of this good stuff, and we can manage a hell of a lot from here, hoping it hasn't logged me out, as you can see here. So we can do switching, we can do wireless, we can even do things like door access sensors, cameras, all of this good stuff from here. That's not the focus of today. That's in our other webinars that hopefully you would have been on, or if not, Phil will have the recordings. Today, what we're looking at is Secure Connect, and bringing these SD-WAN fabrics in and all of that good stuff. But if we look at our sites here, so, security and SD-WAN here, if we just have a look at the route table, we will see all of the different sites that we've got in this SD-WAN. This is a demo environment, so apologies if it goes wrong, and it's all in America and things like that. But as you can see here, we've got sites in Palo Alto, we've got sites in Los Angeles, all of this good stuff, and they're all connected into our SD-WAN. So in this scenario, it's set up, and we've already started setting up our Secure Connect. So what we essentially do is, when you buy Secure Connect, you essentially get a new umbrella environment, if you like. And the features that some features are still in the umbrella dashboard, like the DNS security and things like that. I'm not going to pivot into that today. I just don't want to confuse things. And what's actually happening is everything now is starting to come into the Meraki dashboard. So we've seen over time things like you can see on the right hand side there, firewall. It hasn't got a little logo next to it. The firewall is now in this environment. So everything is coming into the Meraki dashboard. So that's where we configure our policies. So we can see here, there's 2 sites that are connected to this. We've got 4 tunnels. So this is what's going to our site. Might be going up to AWS and all that. There's no remote access clients connected at the minute, but I'll go over that shortly. We've got 2 private applications here. So what are they? Private applications are things that we need to get into internally. So I think in this instance, we've got a finance database and a HR database, I think. And then there's public applications. So for those of you who've got Umbrella, these are the apps that we see going through the fabric. And this could be things like Microsoft 365, it could be Google, it could be all of these cloud apps that we use, and we can look at the high risk and things like that. So as you can see here, we're starting to push all of our traffic from our organization through this. Let me just go through. So the first thing we do, so it's already set up in this instance, so I can't really show you. So when you get this, the first thing you do is you set up your identity provider. So we would connect this with, let's say, Azure AD, Entra ID. We connect it through, and we start to pull through our users from there, on our user groups and all of this stuff, and then we can start to apply policies in here. So what we can see here is we've only got 3 users. So Bill Schroeder, he is a permanent employee, for example, and he's got remote access. So he's got the full remote access using the former AnyConnect client, Cisco Secure client. And then we've got 2 other. We've got I'm a Healer and Ursula PayUp. So you can imagine what they do. I think one's in healthcare and the other one's in finance. So they're the users that we've got in this network. We've then got applications, different applications that we might want to protect. So here, as we can see, we've got a finance portal and a patient portal. So the finance portal, we basically give it an internal IP address. This is how you get to it. And then Cisco will give us an external URL here. This might work, this might not. And what we can do is say to those contractors, if we go back to there, here's the URL, here's how you access this system. Now, I haven't got a login for here, but this would, potentially pop up with your Azure AD login, and then send them to your Azure MFA. And then we can apply your conditional access policies on top of that, or we could put Duo on top of it. You can see here how it starts to get exciting, and we're starting to integrate stuff and go from there. So that's how they get into these internal applications. And then we can have as many internal applications as we like in here, and then go from there. Public applications, then, these are the things that Umbrella traditionally sees. So you see here, TikTok, things like that. So we might want to click on that. We weight that, we can block it, all of that good stuff from there. We can add groups and categories into there then. I won't go into this too much, I'll keep moving on because we haven't got long left. Where I'm going with this is we can start to build policies from here. So what we can do is we can say, I might want, was it Ursula Payup, to access our payment portal, but no one else. So this is what we want to do, and we want to start configuring this. And this is where we go from here. So if we look here, this is the browser access. And as you can see here, to access that finance system, Ursula Payup, she would be allowed access to the finance portal and nothing else. I'm a healer. We might have a doctor's portal or a patient portal. That's a doctor. They're allowed access into that environment. So you can see here how you can start to roll this out. And what we've also seen come in is, for example, if you've got devs that need to access using SQL ports, for example, you could just open SQL ports inbound so they can connect to your database, but nothing else. And that's where we go from there. With regards to the browser setup then, browser access, and let me just find out where that is in a sec. What we can do is we can look at the endpoints that are connecting to this. So if you remember, I showed you on the 3 diagrams, the last one with the orange route where we were providing internal access. These are the browser requirements that we want to see for our contractors and people like that are accessing our environment. So here's the sort of thing that we can configure. We could say they're only allowed to use Windows, it has to be the latest version of Windows, and they have 2 weeks to upgrade. For those of you with Cyber Essentials, that's very good, because to meet compliance, 2 weeks, you should be patching your systems within 2 weeks. We might only allow these browsers, and it might be the latest version of Chrome, the latest version of Firefox, or the latest version, whatever that looks like. And we might only want to allow access from European nations, for example. That's what we do there. And then for our client-based access, we can go a lot further. So these are our machines, our corporate-owned machines, or our organization-owned machines that we want to automatically connect to the SD-WAN from wherever they are in the world and get into our internal systems. And what we can do here is a whole heap of things. So we can configure here. And for those of you with Duo, you will see this is very similar to what you do in Duo now. So certificates, so if you've got a PKI, Cisco ISO, like, you can deploy a certificate if you wanted to. We can only allow certain operating systems, Mac OS, whatever that is. Latest version, give them a 2-week grace period. We can require them to be running a certain type of anti-malware. So if I look in here, we might only want to allow CrowdStrike or Defender or something like that. And then we can say here, okay, let's only allow CrowdStrike is in here somewhere. Shout out Phil if you see it, there it is. So we might only allow CrowdStrike, and we might want to block access if their anti-malware up to date, if their firewall isn't on, or if they haven't got disk encryption on their device. So if their device is not trusted, they can't get into our systems. One more thing I'll show you then, and then I'll shut up, is the cloud delivered firewall. So traditionally, we might have had firewall rules on all of our MX devices, which we can still have, for egress and internet traffic. But if we're pushing everything out now via the fabric, you put all of your firewall rules in here. So this is the only place you need to configure your firewall rules to go out to the internet. And you can do intrusion prevention, much like you do in Meraki now. So it's essentially pulling all of that stuff into one location. So I'll stop there. There's so much I could talk about there, but I will hold it there. And if you want a demo, you can contact us. Q&A. Phil, any questions?
Are there any questions? Well, I think you've just covered, but I'll just go for it again. When we use browser access features, similar sort of the case.
Yeah, so I've actually got one here. So our pen testers, our security testers, when they're out testing, we've got an internal report right in, and it manages our pen test methodology, and it's hosted in AWS. Now, they traditionally had to connect to the VPN to get into that, but because they were doing stuff on the network testing and scanning, it messed with their network settings, and they'd have to stop testing to get onto the VPN to add stuff to their report. So what we do now is they have a public URL they go to, and they just open it in a web browser, and that tunnels through to our internal app, and they go to there. Another way, and another client that we do, is now and again we jump on and manage their Cisco ICE or their Cisco Firepower Management Center, which is an internal app. So instead of giving us full VPN access, we just browse, and we go in that way, and then we can only get to the configuration page of ISO or whatever it is. So there's two. Very good.
Excellent. Unless there's any more in the chat, I think that's all the questions answered. Just go up on the screen there. The next webinar is 23rd of April, and that is kind of following on from this. So that is all around the access and the zero trust. So Darren touched on it today, but that's a bit more of a deep dive, similar to this, more of a technical view to show what you can be done. And then following from that, we've got some webinars in May, and I will, if you're already signed up, brilliant. If not, I'll be sending out invites to those along with the slides following this, and all the information on how to win that camera. So that will go out to email for everybody who signed up now. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.